Imagine a world where vast empires rise and fall, where kingdoms are carved from the sword and the soil. And yet, amidst these mighty powers, a small collection of city-states mastered the seas in a way that no one else could. They didn't wield armies that shook continents. They didn't construct monuments to rival the pyramids. But they did something far more dangerous and far more enduring. They became the invisible lifeblood of the ancient world, trading not just goods, but ideas, wealth, and secrets across every shore of the Mediterranean. Who were these masters of the waves, and how did their influence echo through history long after their cities were gone? Phoenicia. The name evokes mystery, trade, and a certain untouchable brilliance. Stretching along the rugged eastern coast of the Mediterranean, these city-states, Tyre, Sidon, Byblos, stood as beacons of commerce and innovation. Yet, for all their fame, they left no monumental empire behind, no vast armies to stamp their dominion into history. Instead, they left something far more profound, a legacy of ingenuity, maritime mastery, and cultural diffusion that still shapes the world today. In this documentary, we will journey into the heart of Phoenicia's secrets, from the harbors where their sleek ships sliced through the waves, to the markets where exotic goods flowed like rivers, to the very inventions that allowed humans to communicate across continents. This is the story of a civilization that thrived not through conquest, but through cleverness, daring, and an intimate understanding of the sea itself. Before we set sail on this journey, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, so you never miss a voyage into the mysteries of history. Now prepare to uncover the story of the legendary Phoenicians, the architects of a world that, even today, carries the whispers of their power. To truly understand the Phoenicians, one must begin with the sea. Unlike civilizations that thrived on fertile plains or along great rivers, the Phoenicians were born on rugged coastlines and steep cliffs, where arable land was scarce and survival depended on the waters that stretched endlessly in every direction. The Mediterranean was not merely a body of water, it was both lifeline and challenge, a realm of opportunity and peril that would shape the destiny of a people unlike any other. From these harsh shores emerged a civilization whose identity was inseparable from the sea. The Phoenicians became masters of navigation long before compasses and charts were common. They observed the winds, the tides, and the stars, learning to predict storms, currents, and seasonal changes with uncanny accuracy. This knowledge allowed them to sail farther and faster than their contemporaries, establishing trade networks that stretched from the Levant to the edges of the known world. For the Phoenicians, the sea was not a threat. It was a highway, a marketplace, and a battlefield all at once. Central to their mastery was the art of shipbuilding. Phoenician ships were engineered for both speed and endurance. Their galleys and biremes, long and narrow with strong hulls, could carry hundreds of tons of cargo while remaining agile enough to navigate treacherous waters. Unlike the clunky, multi-purpose vessels of other civilizations, Phoenician ships were specialized instruments of commerce and exploration. Every plank and joint was meticulously crafted, every sail and rudder designed to maximize efficiency. These ships allowed the Phoenicians not only to transport goods but also to project influence across the Mediterranean, leaving a presence in distant ports long before empires attempted the same feat. The risks they faced were immense. Open-sea voyages were fraught with unpredictable storms, hidden reefs, and hostile coastal tribes. Piracy was a constant threat, and yet the Phoenicians embraced these dangers as part of their identity. Their courage and ingenuity transformed peril into opportunity, enabling them to reach lands that many considered unreachable. Perhaps their most legendary undertaking was the journey to the fabled Tin Isles, believed to be modern-day Cornwall in Britain. Securing tin, a vital component for making bronze, was no small task. It required months of perilous navigation, crossing unfamiliar seas and surviving conditions that would have turned lesser traders back. Yet the Phoenicians succeeded, demonstrating that their mastery of the sea was not just technical, but also psychological, a combination of skill, daring, and relentless perseverance. Phoenician influence was felt not only in trade, but in the very flow of ideas and culture across the Mediterranean. Their network of merchants and ports created channels through which exotic goods and innovative concepts flowed freely. Ivory from Africa, copper from Cyprus, cedar from Lebanon, these were not mere commodities. Each shipment carried with it knowledge, practices, and technologies that shaped the societies they touched. A Greek or Egyptian city that engaged in Phoenician trade did not just receive timber or glass. It absorbed the influence of a civilization that understood the power of networks, of connectivity, and of subtle cultural persuasion. Every Phoenician city-state, Tyre, Sidon, Byblos, functioned as both a hub of commerce and a fortress. Harbors were carefully engineered, markets thrived with exotic wares, and workshops produced luxury goods sought across the Mediterranean. Their economy was intricately linked with their maritime prowess. The Phoenicians understood that controlling trade routes was more powerful than controlling land, that wealth and influence flowed with the currents and winds, and that by mastering both, they could command respect without ever raising an army. The sophistication of their trade extended beyond raw materials. Phoenician merchants were adept negotiators and strategists. They formed alliances where convenient and maintained neutrality when advantageous, navigating the delicate politics of neighboring empires. They understood that survival depended not on conquest, but on adaptability, on knowing when to push forward and when to retreat. This combination of maritime skill and political acumen made Phoenicia an invisible yet omnipresent force, a civilization that shaped the ancient world not through fear or violence, but through mastery of commerce and movement. Consider the ripple effect of their work. A Phoenician ship docked in Egypt could introduce new dyes, luxury textiles, and innovative glassmaking techniques, influencing local artisans and stimulating markets for decades. When they traded with Greek city-states, they brought ideas about navigation, writing, and urban organization. Their reach was subtle, yet undeniable, a silent hand shaping the trajectory of Mediterranean civilization. The Phoenicians' genius lay in their ability to operate in the shadows, leaving traces everywhere but claiming nothing for themselves. Even today, the marks of their maritime brilliance linger. The routes they charted became the foundations of later empires' naval strategies. The patterns of commerce they established informed Mediterranean logistics for centuries, and the very idea that a small, resource-limited society could dominate vast oceans through intelligence, innovation, and daring continues to inspire awe. The story of Phoenicia's mastery of the sea is not just a tale of ships and trade. It is a story of vision, courage, and the relentless pursuit of possibility. It is the story of a people who transformed limitations into opportunities, who saw in the Mediterranean not a barrier but a canvas, and who, through sheer ingenuity, became the lifeblood of an entire ancient world. While the Phoenicians were masters of the seas, their true legacy may lie not in the waves they conquered but in the ideas they carried. Their cities hummed with activity, markets alive with merchants, workshops brimming with artisans, but beneath this bustling commerce lay a civilization quietly reshaping the way humans would communicate for millennia. Among their most revolutionary contributions was the invention of the alphabet, a seemingly simple tool whose significance would ripple through time far beyond the Mediterranean shores. Before the Phoenicians, written language was complex, often reserved for the elite. Egyptian hieroglyphs or Mesopotamian cuneiform were intricate systems, capable of recording entire civilizations, yet they demanded years of study and restricted literacy to a select few. Phoenicia's innovation was startling in its simplicity and power. They distilled the act of writing into a series of symbols representing sounds rather than words or ideas. This phonetic system, compact and flexible, made literacy more accessible, empowering merchants, sailors, and ordinary citizens alike. In essence, the Phoenicians democratized communication, giving people the ability to record transactions, ideas, and knowledge without the cumbersome constraints of older writing systems. The alphabet's impact on trade cannot be overstated. A Phoenician merchant traveling to foreign ports could now record inventories, contracts, and agreements with unprecedented clarity. Ships' manifests could be written with precision, trade deals codified, and messages transmitted efficiently across vast distances. This innovation transformed commerce itself, allowing Phoenician trade networks to operate with a sophistication that other civilizations could scarcely match. But the alphabet was more than a practical tool. It was a conduit for culture, ideas, and influence. Through trade, the Phoenician alphabet spread like an invisible tide. Greek merchants encountered it, adapted its symbols, and created the first true Greek script. From Greece, it evolved into Latin, forming the foundation of many modern European languages, and even influenced scripts as distant as Hebrew and Arabic. Every letter we write today, every book, scroll, or document, is a descendant of Phoenician ingenuity, a testament to a civilization whose power was subtle, invisible, and enduring. The Phoenicians had not built empires of stone. They built empires of ideas, leaving a legacy that could traverse centuries without ever raising a sword. Beyond writing, Phoenician innovation touched nearly every aspect of material culture. They were master artisans, shaping glass with a sophistication that stunned even later civilizations. Their glass beads, vessels, and ornaments were traded widely, prized for their beauty and novelty. Each item was not merely a commodity, but a symbol of cultural exchange, carrying Phoenician creativity into the hands of distant peoples. Another remarkable achievement was their mastery of the fabled Tyrian purple dye. Extracted painstakingly from thousands of murex snails, the dye was so vibrant and enduring that it became a symbol of wealth, power, and royalty across the ancient world. Kings, emperors, and aristocrats coveted this purple cloth, yet few realized that its brilliance was the result of Phoenician innovation and patience. The dye was a statement not just of luxury, but of ingenuity, a tangible proof of the civilization's ability to combine natural resources with technical expertise to create something extraordinary. Phoenicians also transformed architecture, urban planning, and maritime engineering. Their harbors and docks were marvels of functionality designed to accommodate the largest merchant fleets of the time. Their cities, though relatively small, were densely organized, balancing commercial hubs with residential quarters and sacred spaces. Workshops for artisans, marketplaces for traders, and temples for worship coexisted in a harmony that reflected the Phoenicians' understanding of human behavior and societal cohesion. Each innovation was purposeful, interconnected, and reflective of a civilization that thrived not through conquest, but through intelligence, adaptability, and vision. Religion, too, played a strategic role in their society. Temples were not only centers of spiritual life, but hubs of commerce and cultural diplomacy. Religious ceremonies reinforced social hierarchies, facilitated trade, and created a sense of unity and identity among disparate city-states. Phoenician society was a network of overlapping systems, each reinforcing the other. Maritime expertise enabled trade. Trade facilitated wealth and cultural exchange. And cultural exchange spread ideas, technologies, and influence. Their genius lay in seeing the world as a web, understanding that influence could be far more enduring than domination. Yet for all their accomplishments, the Phoenicians were remarkably elusive. They never formed a unified empire. Their power was decentralized, embedded in networks of trade, craft, and knowledge rather than armies or fortified borders. This elusiveness only deepens the mystery surrounding them. They were everywhere and nowhere at once, shaping civilizations while leaving few physical traces of their dominance. The cities they built would crumble. Their fleets would disappear. Yet the ideas they disseminated, writing, trade practices, artistic innovations, would echo across continents and centuries. The story of Phoenician innovation is, in many ways, a story of subtlety and foresight. While other civilizations sought immortality through monuments and conquests, Phoenicia sought immortality through ideas, connections, and ingenuity. They understood the enduring power of influence, the silent strength of knowledge, and the transformative force of invention. The alphabet, their luxury goods, their dyes, and their maritime techniques were not just achievements. They were instruments of cultural longevity, tools that allowed a small coastal civilization to leave an indelible mark on the world. In examining Phoenician culture, one begins to realize that their genius lay not in what they possessed, but in what they shared: knowledge, innovation, and a vision of the world interconnected by commerce and communication. They were architects not of stone or empire, but of civilization itself, leaving a legacy that quietly underpins the way humans interact, trade, and communicate even today. Despite their brilliance, the Phoenicians eventually receded from history's forefront. Their cities absorbed into larger empires: the Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, and later, the Romans. Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos, once bustling centers of commerce and innovation, became shadows of their former selves. Yet the disappearance of their political autonomy did not mark the end of their influence. On the contrary, Phoenicia's true power, the power of ideas, trade networks, and cultural diffusion, continued to ripple across the Mediterranean world long after their cities fell silent. Consider the Phoenician alphabet. What might have seemed a simple arrangement of symbols became the foundation for countless written languages. Greek scholars adapted it, turning it into the basis of the Greek alphabet. From Greece, it spread into Latin, shaping the scripts of Europe, and influenced Hebrew and Arabic scripts in the Near East. Each time it traveled, the alphabet carried with it more than letters. It transmitted concepts, trade practices, legal codes, and cultural structures. A Phoenician invention, born in the workshops of city-states on the Levantine coast, would ultimately underpin much of the literacy and communication of the Western world. In this way, Phoenicia achieved something no army or empire could: immortality through influence rather than conquest. Trade, too, left an enduring mark. The Mediterranean had once been a fragmented world, dotted with isolated communities. Phoenician merchants, through sheer skill and daring, created corridors of connectivity. Their trade networks allowed exotic goods, ivory from Africa, tin from the distant British Isles, cedar from Lebanon, to circulate widely, linking disparate cultures. These routes became the arteries of commerce for empires that followed, including Rome, which inherited not just their trade pathways, but also the understanding that control of commerce could equate to control of civilization itself. Even today, maritime routes trace echoes of Phoenician ingenuity. Beyond commerce and writing, Phoenician cultural influence persists in subtler yet profound ways. Consider art and craftsmanship. Their glassmaking, intricate jewelry, and the famed Tyrian purple dye shaped tastes and standards of beauty across empires. The symbols of luxury and refinement in ancient Rome, Greece, and Egypt often originated with the Phoenicians. Their ideas were exported silently, infiltrating markets, workshops, and courts with a subtlety that was almost invisible. Unlike empires built on conquest and monuments, Phoenician influence was woven into the fabric of everyday life, pervasive yet often unnoticed. But the true mystery of Phoenicia lies not only in what they created, but in what remains unknown. How did such a relatively small population command trade across the entire Mediterranean? How did they maintain cohesion, influence, and strategic advantage without centralizing into a single political state? Archaeologists continue to uncover remnants of their cities, docks, and artifacts, yet much of their story is lost to time. What knowledge did they carry to distant shores? What secrets sank beneath the waves along their maritime routes? Each discovery raises as many questions as it answers, preserving the aura of mystery that has surrounded them for millennia. This elusiveness was a strategic strength. Phoenicians never sought to dominate through armies or borders. They thrived on mobility, intelligence, and negotiation. They understood that power could be subtle, hidden in networks rather than empires, influence rather than conquest. Their cities were interconnected hubs, and their sailors, traders, and artisans acted as the lifeblood of an invisible empire. In a world obsessed with monuments and armies, Phoenicia demonstrated that civilization could leave a mark through knowledge, commerce, and cultural exchange. The echoes of Phoenician innovation are everywhere, often invisible to the casual observer. The letters we write, the routes ships travel, the luxury goods we admire, all carry fragments of Phoenician ingenuity. Even the very concept of connecting distant cultures through trade and communication, something so fundamental to human progress, was honed to perfection by these coastal city-states. Their legacy is a testament to the power of subtlety, adaptability, and vision. They shaped the world not by forcing it to bend to their will, but by becoming indispensable to its functioning. In a sense, Phoenicia challenges our understanding of what it means to be great. It forces us to reconsider the markers of civilization, not the size of armies or the height of walls, but the ability to endure through influence, to weave networks that outlast political empires, and to leave ideas so transformative that centuries cannot erase them. The Phoenicians may have vanished as political entities, but they achieved a form of immortality few civilizations can claim, a legacy carried silently across time, embedded in language, commerce, art, and culture. And so, the Phoenicians remain a paradox. Everywhere and nowhere, their presence felt but rarely seen. Their cities may lie in ruins, their fleets long vanished beneath the waves, yet their spirit sails on through the alphabet, through the currents of trade, and through the patterns of cultural exchange they perfected. Each artifact recovered, each inscription deciphered, and each route traced by modern historians reveals not just the skill of a people, but the enduring genius of a civilization that reshaped the ancient world through intellect, creativity, and daring. Phoenicia's story is a reminder that history's greatest powers are not always the loudest. Some civilizations shape the world in silence, leaving behind legacies that whisper across millennia. The Phoenicians were such a people, navigators, innovators, traders, and cultural architects whose influence endures even as the sands of time have buried their cities. And the final question lingers, compelling and haunting. What other secrets of Phoenicia remain hidden, waiting beneath the waves or tucked away in forgotten archives, ready to reveal the full extent of a civilization that changed the world without ever conquering it? As the waves of history wash over the Mediterranean, Phoenicia's cities may have crumbled and their fleets vanished, yet their legacy sails on, hidden in letters, traded across oceans, whispered through luxury and innovation. Their story reminds us that the greatest empires are not always the loudest, and that influence can endure even in silence. But the question remains, what other secrets did these legendary mariners carry across the seas? and what mysteries of the ancient world are still hidden, waiting for us to uncover them.